This is The Sadness of Detail by Jonathan Carroll. It's a very strange story, otherworldly kind of story, but I liked it a lot. Struck a chord with me. Okay, The Sadness of Detail. I used to spend a lot of time at the Cafe Bremen. The coffee there is bitter and delicious, and the real blue velvet seats are as comfortable as old friends. The large windows greet the morning light like Herr Ritter, the waiter, greets anyone who comes in. You don't have to order much, a cup of tea or a glass of wine. The croissants come from the bakery next door and are delivered twice a day. Late in the evening, the cafe bakes its own specialty for the night owl customers, heavies, kind of sugar donut the size of a pocket watch. A wonderful treat is to go there late on a winter night and have a warm plate full of them. The Bremen is open 19 hours a day. December 24th is the only day of the year it's closed, but on Christmas it opens again, wearing green and red tablecloths, full of people in bright new sweaters or singles looking a little less lonely on a day when people should be home. There are small, real pleasures in life. The latest issue of our favorite magazine, fresh pack of cigarettes, smell of things baking. You can have all of them in that cafe. You could be happy there without any of them. I often went in to sit, look out the window, and hum. A secret vice. My husband sneaks candy bars. My mother reads movie magazines. I hum. Give me a free hour with nothing to do and a good window to stare out of, and I'll gladly hum you all of Mahler's Fifth or any song off the Beatles' White Album. I'm the first to admit I'm not very good at it, but humming is only meant for an audience of one, yourself. Anyone who eavesdrops does it at their own peril. This happened on a late November afternoon when the whole town seemed one liquid glaze of reflected light and rain. A day when the rain is colder than snow, everything feels meaner, harder edged. A day to stay inside and read a book, drink soup out of a thick white cup. I decided to treat myself to the Bremen because I was beat. Arguing with the children, trip to the dentist, and endless shopping for invisible things. Toilet paper, glue, salt. Things no one ever knows are there until they're gone and then needed desperately. An invisible day, where you exhaust yourself running around, doing thankless errands that are necessary but meaningless. The housewife's oxymoron. Walking in, wet and loaded down with bags, I think I groaned with joy when I saw my favorite table was empty. I flew to it like a tired robin to its nest. Herr Ritter came right over, looking elegant and very 19th century in his black suit and bow tie, white towel as always draped carefully over his arm. You look very tired. A hard day? A nothing day, Herr Ritter. He suggested a piece of cream cake, damn the calories. I ordered a glass of red wine instead. There was an hour before the kids would be home. An hour to let the knots inside slowly untie themselves while I looked out the window and watched the now romantic rain. How long could it have been? 2 minutes? 3? Almost without knowing it, I'd begun to hum. But then from the booth behind, someone gave a loud, long shh. Embarrassed, I turned and saw an old man with a very pink face glaring at me. Not everyone likes Neil Diamond, you know. The perfect end to a perfect day. Now I was on trial for humming Holly Holy. I made an excuse me face and was about to turn around again when, out of the corner of my eye, I noticed a number of photographs he had spread out on the table in front of him. Most of the pictures were of my family and me. Where did you get those? He reached behind him and picked one up, handed it to me. Not looking at it, he said, "That is your son in 9 years. He's wearing a patch because he lost that eye in an automobile accident. He wanted to be a pilot, as you know. One needs good eyesight for that. So he paints houses instead and drinks a lot. The girl in the picture is the one he lives with. She takes heroin. My son Adam is 9, and the only thing that matters to him in this world is airplanes. We call his room the hangar because he's covered every wall with pictures of the Blue Angels, the British Red Arrows, precision flying teams. There are models and magazines and so many different airplane things in his room that it's a little overwhelming. Recently, he spent a week writing to all the major airlines, asking what one has to do to qualify as a pilot for their company. My husband and I have always been both charmed and proud of Adam's obsession. I've never thought of him as anything but a future pilot. In the picture I held, our little boy, with a crew cut and smart green eyes, looked like a haggard 18-year-old panhandler. The expression on his face was a bad combination of boredom, bitterness, and no hope. It was obviously Adam in a few years, but a young man far past the end of his line. Someone you'd sneer at or move to avoid if you saw him approaching the street. And the eye patch. Imagining the mutilation of one of my children is as wrenching as the thought of them dead. None of that is allowed. It cannot be. And if tragically it does happen, it is always our fault, no matter their age or the circumstances. As parents, our wings must always be large enough to cover and protect them from hurt or pain. It is in our contract with God when we take on the responsibility of their lives. I remember so well the character in Macbeth who, upon hearing of the deaths of all his children, starts calling them chicks. Where are my little chicks? The sight of my son wearing an eye patch gave me the taste of blood in my mouth. Who are you? Here's one of your husband after the divorce. He thinks that new mustache is becoming. I think it's a little silly. Willie has tried on and off for years to grow a mustache. Each one looked worse than the last. Once, in the middle of a very nasty fight, I said he always began one at the same time as he began an affair. That stopped them. In the picture, beside the mustache, he was wearing one of those typically silly heavy metal fan t-shirts covered with flames and lightning, announcing a group called Brain Dead. What was ominous about that was Adam had recently brought home an album by Brain Dead. Said they were awesome. My name is Thursday, Frau Becker. Today is Thursday. That's right. If we'd met yesterday, I'd be Wednesday. Who are you? What's this about? What are these pictures? They're your future. Or rather, one of them. Futures are unstable, tricky things. They depend on different factors. Where you're going now, the way you handle your life and those around you, this is what will happen. I pointed to the picture I held and then opened both hands in a gesture that said, what can you do? That's the way it is. I don't believe it. Get away from me. I moved to turn, but he touched my shoulder. Your favorite smell is burning wood. You always lie when you say the first person you ever slept with was Joe Newman. The first was really your parents' handyman, Leon Bell. No one knew that. Not my husband, my sister, no one. Leon Bell, I thought of him so rarely. He was kind and gentle, but it still hurt. I was so scared someone would come home and find us in my bed. What do you want? I asked. He took the photograph out of my hand and put it back on the table with the others. Futures can change. They're like the lines on our hands. Fate is a negotiable thing. I'm here to negotiate with you. What do I have that you want? Your talent. Remember the drawing you did the other night of the child under the tree? I want it. Bring me the picture and your son will be saved. That's all. It was only a sketch. It took 10 minutes. I did it while watching TV. Bring it to me here tomorrow at exactly this time. How can I believe you? He picked up a photograph that had been covered by the others. He held it in front of my eyes. My old bedroom. Leon Bell and me. I don't even know you. Why are you doing this to me? He slid the pictures together as if they were cards he was about to shuffle. Go home and find the drawing. I was pretty good once. Went to art school on a full scholarship. Some of my teachers said I had the markings to be a real painter. But you know how I reacted to that? Got scared. I painted because I liked it. When people started looking carefully at my work and with their hands on their checkbooks, I ran away and got married. Marriage and its responsibilities is a perfect rock to hide behind when an enemy, parents, maturity, success, is out gunning for you. Squeeze down into a ball behind it and virtually nothing can touch you. For me, being happy didn't mean being a successful artist. I saw success as stress and demands I'd never be able to fulfill, thus disappointing people who thought I was better than I really was. Just recently, now that the children were old enough to get their own snacks, I bought some expensive English oil paints and 2 stretched canvases. But I've been almost too embarrassed to bring them out because the only art I've done in the last years has been funny sketches for the kids or little scribbles at the bottom of a letter to a good friend. Plus, the sketchbook, my oldest friend. I always wanted to keep a diary but never had the kind of persistence that needed to save something in writing about every day you live. My sketchbook is different because the day I began it, when I was 17, I promised myself to make drawings in there only when I wanted, or when an event was so important, the birth of the kids, the day I discovered Willie was having an affair, that I had to say something about it. As an old woman, I'd give it to my children and say, these are things you didn't know. They aren't important now, except to tell you more about me, if that interests you. Or maybe I'll only look at it and then sigh and throw it away. I go through the book sometimes. It generally depresses me, even the good parts, nice memories, because there's so much sadness in the details. How current and glamorous I thought I was wearing striped bell-bottom pants to a big party just after we were married. Or one of Willie at his desk, smoking a cigar, so happy to be finishing the article on Fisher Van Erck he had thought would make his career, but which was never even published. I drew these things carefully and in great detail. All I see now are the silly pants, or the spread of his excited fingers on the typewriter. But if it depresses me, why do I continue drawing in the book? Because it is the only life I have. I'm not pretentious enough to think I know answers now that might come to me when I'm older. I keep hoping 30 or 40 years from now, when I look at these drawings, I'll have some kind of revelation that will make parts of my life clearer to me. I couldn't find the drawing he wanted. I went through everything. Wastebaskets, drawers, kids' old homework papers. How brutally panic can build when you can't find something needed. Whatever you're looking for becomes the most important object in the world, however trivial. A suitcase key, year-old receipt from the gas company. Your apartment becomes an enemy, hiding the thing you need, indifferent to your pleas. Wasn't in my sketchbook, on the telephone table, stuck in a coat pocket. Neither the gray prairies under the beds nor the false pine and chemical smells in the kitchen closets offered anything. Would my son really lose his eye if I couldn't find one stupid little drawing? Yes, that's what the old man said. I believed him after seeing the pictures of Leon and me together. It was a terrible night, trying to be good old normal mom to the family while madly exploring every corner of our place for the picture. At dinner, I casually asked if anyone had seen it in their travels. No one had. They were used to my drawings and doodles around the house. Now and then, someone liked me and took it to their room with no luck with this one. No, now and then someone liked one and took it around to their rooms, but no luck with this one. Throughout the evening, I kept glancing at Adam, which gave me further reason to search. He had plain eyes, but they were smart and welcoming. He looked straight at you in a conversation, giving you his full attention. At midnight, there were no further places to look. The drawing was gone. Sitting at the kitchen table with a glass of orange juice, I knew there were only two things I could do when I met Thursday at the Bremen the next afternoon. Tell the truth, or try and recreate from memory the drawing he demanded. It was such a simple sketch that I didn't think there would be much trouble drawing something that looked similar, but exactly the same. Not possible. I went into the living room and got my clipboard. At least the paper would be the same. I really bought the stuff by the ream because it was cheap and sturdy and we both liked using it. You didn't feel guilty crumpling up a piece if you'd made a mistake. I could easily see myself crumpling up that damn drawing and could easily see myself crumpling up that, and not thinking about it. Again, a child standing under a tree, a little girl in jeans, a chestnut tree. What was special about it? It took 5 minutes to do, 5 minutes to be sure it was as I remembered, 5 more minutes within my lap knowing it was hopeless. 15 minutes from start to finish. Next afternoon, before I'd even sat down, Thursday was tapping an insistent finger on the marble table. Did you find it? Do you have it? Yes, it's in my bag. Everything about him relaxed. His face went slack. Fingers lay down with the rest of his palm on the table. He leaned back against the velvet seat. That's great. Give it to me, please. He was feeling better, but I wasn't. As coolly as I could, I pulled the wrinkled piece of paper out of my purse. Before leaving the apartment, I crumpled up the drawing into a ball, perhaps to fool him a little. If he didn't look too closely, maybe I'd be safe. Maybe I wouldn't. There wasn't much chance of being lucky, but at that point, what else could I hope for? And watching how carefully he flattened out the paper and pored over it as if it were some unique and priceless document, I knew he'd notice the difference any moment. Everything would go to hell from there. I took off my coat and slid into the booth. He looked up from the picture. You can hum if you like. I'll just be a minute. I liked this cafe so much. But Today it had been changed by this man into an unpleasant, menacing place where all I wanted to do was finish our business and leave. Even the sight of Herr Ritter standing there on the counter reading the newspaper was irritating. How could life go on so normally when the worst kind of magic was in the air, thick as cigar smoke? You have a good memory. What do you mean? He reached into his breast pocket and took out a piece of paper. Unfolding it, he held it up to the original drawing of the little girl under the trees I'd done. You had it, he nodded. Both of us played tricks. I said you had it. You were trying to give me a copy and saying it was the original. Who was more dishonest? I couldn't find it because you had it. Why did you do that? Because we had to see how well you remember things. It's very important. What about my son? I asked. Will he be all right? I guarantee he will. I could show you a photograph of him then, but it might be better just knowing he'll be fine. He'll live a very contented life. Because of what you did for him here. He pointed to the second drawing. Do you want to see the photograph of him? I was tempted, but finally said no. Just tell me if he'll be a pilot. Thursday crossed his arms. He'll be captain of a jet flying the Paris to Caracas route. One day his plane will be hijacked. But your Adam will do something so clever and heroic that he single-handedly will save the plane and the passengers. A genuinely heroic act. It would be a cover story about him in Time magazine, titled, Maybe There Are Still Heroes. He held up his drawing. Your son, because of this. What about my getting divorced? Do you really want to know? Yes, I do. He took another piece of folded paper out of his pocket along with the nub of a pencil. Draw a pear. A pear? Yes. Draw a picture of a pear, then I can tell you. I took the pencil and smoothed the paper on the table. I don't understand any of this, Mr. Thursday. A pear. A fat bottom and a half-so-fat top. A stem. A little cross-hatching to give it shadow and depth. One pear. I handed it to him, and he barely gave it a glance before folding it, putting it into another pocket. There will be a divorce, because you will leave your husband, not vice versa, as you fear. Why would I do that? Because Frank Elkin is coming for you. I think if I had married Frank Elkin, I would have been all right. I certainly loved him enough. Besides loving me, too, he also loved parachuting. One day he jumped, pulled his ripcord, nothing happened. How long ago was that? 20 years? 24? Frank Elkin is dead. He is, but you can change that. The apartment was empty when we got back. Thursday said he would keep it empty until we finished what we had to do. In the bedroom, I took my sketchbook out of the table beside the bed, the familiar gray and red cover. I remembered the day I bought it and paid for it with new coins. Somehow, every coin I handed the salesgirl was gleaming like gold and silver. I was romantic enough to take that as a good omen. In the living room again, I handed my book to Mr. Thursday, who took it from me without comment. Sit down. What will happen to the children? If you want, the court will award them to you. You can prove your husband is an alcoholic and incapable of caring for them. But Willie doesn't drink. You can change that. How? How can I change all these things? What do you mean? He opened the sketchbook and whipped quickly through it, not stopping or slowing anywhere. When he'd finished, he looked at me. Somewhere in this book, you've drawn pictures of God. I can't tell you which ones they are, but I just checked and they're here. Some people have this talent. Some have been able to write God. Others can compose him in music. I'm not talking about people like Tolstoy or Beethoven either. They were only great artists. You know the sadness of detail, using your phrase. That is what makes you capable of transcendence. For the rest of your life, if you choose, I will come sometimes, ask you to do a drawing, like the pair today. I'll ask for things like that, as well as copies of certain of the works in your sketchbook. I can say that your book is full of astounding work, Mrs. Becker. There are at least 3 different important drawings of God. One I've never ever seen. Other things too. We need this book, and we need you. Unfortunately, I cannot tell you more than that. Even if I were to show you which of your work is transcendent, you wouldn't understand what I was talking about. You can do things we can't, and vice versa. For us, bringing Frank Elkin back from the dead is no problem, or saving your son. He held up my book with both hands. We can't do this, and that is why we need you. What if I were to say no? We keep our word. Your son will still become a pilot, but you will sink deeper into your meager life. You will realize, even more than now, you've been suffocating in it for years. And if I gave you the book and do your drawings, you can have Frank Elkin and whatever else you want. Are you from heaven? Mr. Thursday smiled for the first time. I can't honestly answer that because I don't know. That is why we need your drawings, Mrs. Becker, because even God doesn't know or remember anymore. It is as if he has a kind of progressive amnesia. He forgets things, to put it simply. The only way we can get him to remember is to show him pictures like yours of himself, or play certain music, read passages from books. Only then does he remember, tell us the things we need to know. We are recording everything he says. There are fewer and fewer periods of clarity. You see, the saddest thing of all is even he has begun to forget the details. And as he forgets, things change and go away. Right now they're small things, certain smells, forgetting to give this child arms, that man his freedom when he deserves it. Some of us who work for God don't know where we come from or if we are even doing the right thing. All we do know is his condition is becoming worse. Something must be done quickly. When he sees your pictures, he is reminded of things. Sometimes he even becomes his old self again. We can work with him then. But without your work, when we can't show him pictures of himself, images he once created, or words he spoke, he's only an old man with a failing memory. When his memory is gone, there will be nothing left. I don't go to the Café Brennan anymore. A few days after I last met with Thursday, I had a strange experience there that soured me on the place. I was in my favorite seat, drawing the pig, the Rock of Gibraltar, the ancient Spanish coin he had requested. Having just finished the coin, I looked up and saw Herr Ritter watching me closely from his place behind the counter. Too closely. I have to be careful about who I let see my drawings. Thursday said there are a great many around who like nothing more than for a certain memory to disappear forever.